He said the scholars from the Hufadh, the greatest scholars of hadith, agree that this hadith is da'if, وَإِن كَثُرَتْ تُرُقُهُ. Even if it has many different chains of narration, it is said to be weak. And the scholars, they have written countless writings that are called al-Arba'een, 40 hadith. فأول من علمته صنف عبد الله بن المبارك ثم محمد بن أسلم الطوسي العالم الرباني. He said the first that I know of who wrote a book of 40 hadith was Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, who was al-Hafiz, al-Shaykh, al-Imam, Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, rahimahullah ta'ala. One of the greatest imams of hadith from the ulama of Khurasan in the third generation of Islam. The imam of his time for the entire area that he lived in, rahimahullah ta'ala. And then Muhammad ibn Aslam al-Tusi, another imam from the great imams of the Salaf, who when the scholars of his time said, Man al-Jama'ah, when you say Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, who was the Jama'ah? They said Muhammad ibn Aslam al-Tusi wa man ma'ah. That Muhammad ibn Aslam al-Tusi wa man ma'ah, they are the Jama'ah. They are the Jama'ah. So Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak wrote a book called Al-Arba'een. Muhammad ibn Aslam al-Tusi wrote a book called Al-Arba'een. ثم الحسن بن سفيان النسوي وأبو بكر الآجوري وأبو بكر محمد بن إبراهيم الأصبحاني والدارقطني والحاكم وأبو نعيم وأبو عبد الرحمن السلمي والسلمي وأبو سعيد الماليني وأبو عثمان الصابوني وعبد الله بن محمد الأنصاري وأبو بكر البيحقي وخلائق لا يحصون من المتقدمين والمتأخرين. He said all of these scholars that we mentioned wrote books that are called al-Arba'een. Does that mean that all of them believe that the hadith about whoever gathers 40 hadith? No, because Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala is about to write a book called al-Arba'een, where he just clearly said that the hadith that mentions the virtue of memorizing 40 hadith is in and of itself inauthentic. However, to give a number that is attainable and achievable, that you can memorize 40 hadith. Who can memorize 40 hadith? Who can confidently memorize 40 hadith here? Oh man. Matat al-himam. Matat al-himam. Aspiration has died. You just make 4 takbirs. Just everybody lay on the floor up here. We make the salatul janazah. It's over for us. We can't get 40 hadith out of us. He said that At-Tabari rahimahullah ta'ala, when he wanted to write his tafsir, he wanted to write a hadith, he wanted to write a tafsir book, and his tafsir is musnad. His tafsir is musnad, meaning that for every statement of tafsir, it's a chain of narration from himself to the person who said it. That this verse means this. Whether that person was a prophet or one of his companions or one of the early scholars, from himself to that person. And he gathered his students and he said, I want to write 100 volumes. I think actually the number was higher than 100, but I'll keep it moderate so I don't exaggerate in my speech. I think the number was much higher than that actually. I want to write 100 volumes. Obviously, he needed his students to help him with that. A person who's going to undertake a monumental task like that, they need a lot of resources, a lot of help. They need editors and all that sort of thing. I want to write 100 volumes in tafsir. Who will help me? Nobody raised their hand. Nobody volunteered anything like that. He said, At-Tabari, he said, قَدْ مَاتَتِ الْهِمَمْ. He said, aspirations have died. Aspirations have died. Where is al-himam? Where are the aspirations of the early Muslims who would gather tens of thousands of ahadith from the Prophet ﷺ? Who, when a class was going on for hadith, there would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 people on a daily basis sitting in the class. Only a couple rows of people actually writing. Everybody else there to learn. To just learn and to benefit and to learn character from the scholars. قَدْ مَاتَتِ الْهِمَمْ. Can we memorize 40 hadith? If we say if we don't memorize anything else from the Prophet ﷺ, right? But we can memorize 40 hadith. Inshallah ta'ala. He says, so there are many books that the scholars have written. You have the 40 hadith of Al-Ajuri, rahimahullah ta'ala. The 40 hadith of Hakim, An-Naysaburi, rahimahullah ta'ala, who's the author of Al-Mustadrak al-Sahihain. You have the 40 hadith book of, he said, Al-Bayhaqi rahimahullah ta'ala. And we saw that Al-Bayhaqi's book, Al-Arba'een, is not about 40 hadith. It is 40 chapters and 40 issues of the religion. Right? So not every book on 40 hadith is necessarily about 40 individual hadith. It may be about 40 issues. It may be about 40 scholars who reported various ahadith. So you take all the scholars in that land or all the scholars in this land who reported various ahadith, that sort of thing, but they would use an attainable number. That's a bite-sized number, 40, right? 40, they say, if a person wants to form a habit, 40 days, right? 40 days is what it takes to develop good habits. 40 is an attainable number. It helps you develop good habits, that sort of thing. So he mentions that a great number of scholars gathered books as relates to Al-Arba'een. Did you know that before? That there were many books of Arba'een? If you was to say that we are studying Al-Arba'een, what would you think of when you heard that? The 4 Hadith al-Nawawi, to show you the importance of this book. And this book is exceptional, even though it was not the first of its type. But the amount of benefit that is in this book, his taking the example of scholars who came before him, who collected 40 hadith to help the Muslims learn the basic ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, just as a person doesn't have to memorize the entire Quran. The scholars, they say, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, there are really only a handful of companions who in the time of the Prophet ﷺ memorized the Quran, the entirety of the Quran. Most of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they had what they had memorized of the Quran was not a majority of the Quran. Just as a Muslim, and every time tries to memorize Juz Tabarak, Juz Amma, so on and so forth, and if they have Himma, and they're encouraged to memorize the entirety of the Quran, everybody's built like that. The same time and the same way, not everybody can memorize Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim or go into the lengthy books of Hadith and that sort of thing. You're going to start somewhere, then you start with something short before you're going into something that's lengthy and something that's complicated. He said, and so there are many scholars who are beyond what can be counted, from the early scholars and the latter scholars who wrote collections of 40 hadith. وقد استخرت الله سبحانه وتعالى في جميع 40 حديثا. And I made istikhara, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help me in the decision to choose and select 40 hadith اقتداء بهؤلاء الأئمة العالم, following the example of these أئمة العالم, of these great imams, وحفاظ الإسلام, the great حفاظ of Islam. وقد اتفق العلماء على العمل بالحديث الضعيف في فضائل الأعمال. We'll skip past some of that. He said, وقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said there is great virtue in conveying the ahadith of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, as comes in the statement of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, that those who are present convey to those who are absent. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said this during the Hajjatul Wada', during the farewell pilgrimage, in one of the khutab, one of the sermons that he gave in the days of the farewell pilgrimage. Let those who are present convey to those who are absent. Likewise, the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, may Allah brighten and give joy and happiness to the face of a man who hears a statement of mine and retains it, فَأَدَّاهَا كَمَا سَمِعَهَا, and he conveys it just as he heard it, to the end of the hadith. And we heard an allusion to the hadith earlier. He said, then from the ulama were those who gathered 40 hadith as relates to the fundamentals of Islam, meaning belief. Some of them as relates to al-furu', meaning the matters of law. Some of them 40 hadith about jihad. Some of them 40 hadith about zuhud, about being disinterested in the dunya. Some of them 40 hadith about character and etiquette. وَبَعْضُهُمْ فِي الْخُطَبِ. Some of them 40 hadith or 40 narrations about sermons or public exhortations that were given by the Prophet ﷺ or his companions or the righteous scholars. وَكُلُّهَا مَقَاصِدٌ صَالِحَةٌ وَرَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْ قَاصِدِيهَا. All of these are righteous goals and righteous intentions, and may Allah have mercy on those who intended to write these books for these purposes. He said, and I saw that it would be good for me to gather 40 ahadith that are the most important hadith about all of these things, about all of the topics, the usul and the furu' and zuhud and adab and character and all these sorts of things, from beliefs to character and everything else. 40 hadith مشتملة على جميع ذلك, that cover the basis of the most important topics of the religion. وكل حديث منها قاعدة عظيمة من قواعد الدين. All of these, or each and every one of these hadith by itself is a tremendous fundamental from the fundamentals of the religion. This is where we'll stop today, and we'll continue with his